What's up, guys? Welcome back to another iPopcorn for that review. I'm Chris,
I'm Nick.
and today we are talking about Queer. The ninth film from Luca Guadagnino. The second one this year. We had Challengers earlier this year, so this is another showing from him. Very different role for Daniel Craig, and just a kind of a different film all around in some ways. It feels like Luca Guadagnino, but a different film all around. So we were both looking forward to this, and our plan was to go see this a long time ago, and it just did not come to. This is one of those one of these year-end movies where it's a real slow rollout, and we couldn't find this at a theater near us until now. So we both just recently got done seeing this. What are some of your thoughts about this? I kind of want to get a conversation going about it. It was an interesting experience for me. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's based on a book by William S. Burroughs, and I've not read any of his books, but
I have not either.
But this movie for me was just incredibly boring. I feel like there's probably inner monologue and stuff during a lot of the parts of the movie that didn't have anything going on in the book, maybe. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think I'm the target audience either. But
I'm glad I had some time to chew on my thoughts about this movie, because to be honest with you, my immediate thought leaving the theater was disappointed. I just was so happy with Challengers. I was buzzing leaving the theater. I really enjoyed that movie. One of my favorites of the year for sure. This has all the, and I'll get into what changed, but this has all the style of a movie like Challenger. It is the same cinematographer, it's the same screenwriter, but it's a screen adaptation this time, whereas Challengers was an original concept that the screenwriter came up with and worked with Luca Guadagnino on. But same screenwriter, same, we got Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross again doing the score. So a lot of this movie, everything's so well done. And I will also say, especially stellar performance from Daniel Craig. I think the performance is great, although this is not like you just alluded to, it's not a wordy performance at all. A lot of this is acting with your face and your emotions and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot to praise about that performance. But this movie, my thought leaving the theater was, this movie kind of just meanders its way drunkenly through. It's not even a romance. It's a guy pining after what could have been in something sort of resembling a situationship that never materializes anything. He just pines for this younger man, and the feelings aren't really that mutual. And you keep thinking you're going to get that mutual feeling, and it keeps pointing you in the direction of maybe you're going to get that mutual feeling. And I'm sure they got what they were going for out of it, and maybe it's meant to be poetic and everything, but it leaves me feeling unsatisfied, and I think other people will leave this movie feeling unsatisfied.
And I mean, even his own other films, I prefer Call Me by Your Name much more than this movie.
This was not Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, no, there's many implied things, and you think with Challengers, there's going to be some kind of snowball effect coming into this movie, but there are things I like. I do like the scenes in the town, the settings of the towns are really pretty and interesting.
Man, it looks gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, in
Mexico City is where they're at,
and they go to other towns in South America.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Schwartzman, I liked his character. I think he was one of the standouts for me.
I think that man is in a legitimate fat suit.
I think so, yeah.
Comedic relief character, which is hilarious. It's funny that they didn't just find a pudgier guy or whatever.
Yeah, it's just, there's not a lot of dialogue in some of the scenes, and it kind of didn't really do anything for me. And even, like you said, their relationship is not a real relationship.
It's a situationship. And there's a lot of just drinking and smoking and hanging out in bars and casual conversation, but the conversation sometimes fades away, and I think that's intentional. It's almost like what they're talking about doesn't matter half the time. There's a few moments where you're supposed to focus and pay attention to what they're talking about, but most of the time it's just tangential. It doesn't really matter. They're talking in a bar, and a relationship's being forced upon this younger guy, basically, this GI living in Mexico City.
And in the beginning of the movie, it kind of becomes a thing where he is kind of this lecherous older gay guy who's just trying to prey on people to sleep with. Not prey on people, but he's just trying to find younger men to spend time with and to sleep with, and then he finds this guy, and it kind of makes me not sympathize with him as a character from earlier parts in the movie.
I will say, as I chew on it, the thoughts of it, I think there's an undercurrent of ideas here that are kind of cooler than the movie we got. But I think there is things to talk about here. Like, it is a story about like unrequited longing, or like that pining that, you know, I like stories that feel very real and not sugarcoated at all. And this is that. There are some stories out there that don't end happy, and I can appreciate that. Some of my favorite movies of this year don't have happy endings, but it just feels like not only does this not have much of a silver lining to it anywhere, and it's this story about longing and pining and everything, but it really just feels like, man, a guy got way too hung up on such a small point in his life that really there wasn't anything there. He thought he saw some moments there that were worth holding on to for, like, I guess his life. I mean, it gets a little symbolic. William S. Burroughs' stuff is notoriously like hard to translate to a movie. If you ever seen Naked Lunch, that's another very different example of trying to adapt a book of his into. But you know, all throughout that's the theme all through. You see like a lot of, like, our main character William here visually is shown like fading away, or like looking staticky, or looking transparent or translucent, disembodied, and he's obsessed with telekinesis or telepathy, and so they're looking for ayahuasca to try to like learn about telepathy. And I think that was all like a symbolic thing about him trying to communicate without words with this guy.
I want to talk to you without speaking.
But the thing is, that would have had so much when they finally do take ayahuasca, and there's this admittedly really well shot, poetic, really cool scene, I think, at the end when it gets the trippiest parts of the movie. But I feel like all the impact and the weight is taken away because you didn't convince me to feel very strongly about this guy. He's so cold to all William's advances, so it's like I needed to feel infatuated with him in a sort of kind of way too, so that I felt more there, because it felt like I was supposed to have all this impact, and then you just do a confusing thing where you strip it away, and we're almost at the end of the movie now, and it's a pretty long thing, and a lot of the time was just spent sipping on tequila or whatever drinking and smoking cigarettes. So yeah, I wish it had had more weight to it. I mean, I know Luca Guadagnino, like, look at Bones and all, look at the guy can do, like we said, Challengers, Call Me By Your Name. It's interesting. People are liking this, you know? Like, I think we're in a little bit in the minority here, but
I wanted to like it way more than I did. Like, the trailers, I was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic. But about halfway through, I was checking my phone, being like, okay, I'm kind of ready to not
I did
watch
like the scenes early on where they're showing him, like a transparent version of him, like, imagining himself reaching out and touching the guy, where he's not actually doing that in real life. Like, there were some things I was on board in the beginning, you know what I mean? I like this guy's style. Like I said, the music choices were cool. It starts with like a Sinead O'Connor cover of a Nirvana song. I think that was a cool way to open it. And then when we get like actual Nirvana songs and other like much more modern music than the 1950s when this movie's taking place, I thought those contrasted well. The score is great. There's so much to like. It's just that it's like kind of all like in service of what?
Right.
Unfortunately, it's like a great performance, a great director, a great cinematographer, a great score, and then it all adds up to kind of, maybe it was a very personal story for Luca Guadagnino or something, but
yeah, I mean, it could have been that, or just maybe we need to read the book to get more of information about, like, I don't know, because the weird.
So, they don't take the ayahuasca in the book. They took liberties. They don't get to the ayahuasca part. The book ends like before this movie. This movie kind of carries it on past the book.
Interesting. Well, I mean, just even like the like dream sequences in the movie, I was like, what? I don't understand. And you know, maybe it's just me not understanding, but like, I don't understand what purpose this serves. I mean, is this his mother, or is he?
I didn't really get the scene where he's looking at, I guess he's dreaming and he's looking at like a miniature version of the hotel, and you see him inside the hotel looking out the window at his eye, and there's this whole like William Tell type sequence with him and his lover with shooting the glass off of the, and I think there's some like subtext there about something that actually went on in William S. Burroughs' real life with his wife or something like that, and that's all well and good. But I shouldn't like have to learn that on Wikipedia. Like, I don't get anything out of that unless I know it. So it's not obvious to me why all that had to happen. I get the telepathy thing. I can read some of the subtext there with like he's trying to communicate with this guy without words. But if he could have read that guy's mind, the guy would have been telling him, I don't really see myself as queer in the way that you see yourself as queer, dude, and you're kind of forcing this relationship on me, and I didn't know you were like a heroin addict, and you drug me out to South America to deal with your heroin withdrawal.
Yeah.
So do you really want to read his mind? I don't know. It's just confusing experience to see such a great director. It's not a bad movie, it's just like disappointing.
Yeah, it's hard to recommend, for sure.
Yeah, most people aren't going to sit with this for 2 hours, I don't think.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hard ask. You got to really like I said, like poetic, like tell a story being told more with physicality and stuff than any words, because like I said, most of the dialogue is just kind of tangential to what's going on, and at some point it was a weird experience too, because it's like you're watching one movie and then it feels like all of a sudden we're on a search for a plant in the woods that you can make ayahuasca with, and then we meet this crazy doctor lady that I'm not sure I really vibed with the character. Like I just don't really gonna understand the character or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we finally do get the ayahuasca, and it just gets so like when they like throw up their hearts inside of a weird gross bubble thing.
She wore a crown and she came down in a bubble, dog.
And it's like, again, like in service of what? Just to make me realize that they're tripping. I've seen a lot of like hallucination scenes in movies that are.
This place is kind of juicy.
Also handled, I don't know, I just didn't get, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do with this? What would you rate this movie? It's hard to tell. I can't figure it out. I'm wrestling with it myself, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be on the lower side. I'm probably going to just... a 3, I think.
Okay. I think I gotta... It's weird to judge a movie like this, because it's like I have to give it points for things that I like, and so it brings it up.
Yeah. I mean...
because especially the performance from Daniel Craig, and like all those little things like cinematography and all that add up to a thing, but the Daniel Craig performance really did bring it up for me. Like I did feel his character, and maybe I felt more for him than you did, because you're just thinking kind of.
I'm thinking more just
like a creepy.
No, I mean I do think he had a good performance. I'm going off of my overall enjoyment of the movie, and I wanted to leave.
My enjoyment was pretty low. I do think I'm going to be a little more generous and say 5.5, 5.5. It's above it. There's so many movies that are made so poorly, but you could make a movie with a much lower budget and have worse camera work and a worse soundtrack, but a really, really cool story, and I'd probably like that more.
Yeah.
So yeah, 5.5. What a surprise.
Yeah.
Watch Challengers. If you haven't seen Challengers, we highly recommend that one. But yeah, let us know what you think of it. It seems like it's working for some people a lot more than if it resonated with you and it didn't feel like you were at arm's length with these characters the whole time, then tell us about it in the comments. Let us know what you thought. Hit like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. Thanks for hanging out with us this year. We'll have a year-end list coming soon, and yeah, we'll see you next time, guys.
See ya.